Watch and learn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I want to discuss the Locusts. I'm not sure if this is their first record or not, but this is the first one that I encountered. It's their self-titled 1998 release. I bought this around 1999, and this was my first introduction to having a mini disc in my life too. I was checking this out on the train ride home. It was always the scariest part of buying music from big-ass chain stores was once you ripped off that plastic wrap, for some reason you weren't able to return it. It's like this $25 piece of plastic came straight from the fucking heavens. And there's no way that the people at HMV were ever gonna, anger God by returning their product that was broken. But anyways, yeah, so there's always that sense of fear when you're buying things from big stores like that, and then you're on the trade ride home and you're looking at them and you're like, oh, fuck. Because this one time it happened to my Operation Ivy CD. I bought it from the HMV and had a big-ass crack down the middle. Fortunately, I got my money back there because that was clearly a manufacturing problem, like it got dropped or some shit. But yeah, so I was cracking this open on the train ride home, and boom, there it was. I was fucking staring at this thing. I was like, is this even going to play? And I was so concerned for the rest of the train ride home because I wasn't sure if my disc player, which only seemed to accept full-size discs, of course, like CDs, how the hell was this going to play on my stereo? And I wasn't even making it back home. I was going into Pickering to a friend's house, and I was living in Curtis at that point. So I was like, fuck. I was like, oh no, what if it works on his stereo, but it doesn't work on mine? Because again, I didn't know what a mini disc was. This was 1999. So on one hand, it's fucking so rad, but on the other, it's kind of scary. And sure enough, the mini disc slot was in the disc player. Like the tray that comes out, there's the larger and the smaller. So the mini disc played fine. And yeah, the Locust are insane. They sort of take a page out of like what Melt Banana would be doing, and then they sort of take a page from what the Atari Teenage Riot were doing, and then they boil it down to its like purest form, or each of their songs, of course, are only like 30 seconds to a minute. And it's fun, and they're bouncy, but it's like one giant cacophony of chaos, digital chaos. And it's like, I'm used to craziness coming from bands like Yakopse or bands like Crossed Out or Lack of Interest or, a little more digital hardcore bands like the Agoraphobic. But despite the fact that Scott Hall would be programming like 500 BPM blast beats into a drum machine, the guitars and the vocals and everything from the A and B, they were all like traditional. They were guitars and vocals. But everything that the Locust did, their guitars to their electronics to their vocals, they're all treated digitally. So it's like you've got that power violence madness, but then this sort of digital looping tossed in, and it just creates this tidal wave of chaos, like madness. And I loved that. Like, I think my favorite part of this was I was listening to this religiously, and then I went down, I can't remember what theater I saw it at in Toronto. I was at the Fox or the Bloor, because the Bloor at this point was still showing regular movies. And I saw, I think it was at either of those theaters. It doesn't matter. I saw John Waters' new movie, and that was 2000's Cecil B. Demented, with Melanie Griffith and Michael Shannon, Stephen Dorff, Maggie Gyllenhaal. And when things are going nuts towards the end of the film, when they're in the theater and everything's kind of jumping off, and the Locusts, what is it, the Nice Tranquil Thumb in Mouth kicks in. I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm fucking like raging out hard to this band at home. And then it's like in this movie that I'm watching, and it's like, suddenly I was like 12 years old seeing Ace Ventura for the first time when I heard Cannibal Corpse, like with the start of Hammer Smash Face with the dun 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 da da dun 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 da da dun dun. And I was like, there's no way the Cannibal Corpse is in this movie. And then motherfucker, oh my God, not only is the song Hammer Smash Face in it, but the band is on stage. And I mean, that just completely blew my mind. So this happened again. And of course, it wasn't quite as massive because, man, I was in love with Cannibal Corpse when I was a little kid. And I was older when I discovered that John Waters had used the Locust in Cecil B. Demented. So it was still incredibly exciting, but of course it lacked that sort of youthful punch it had when I was 12. But yeah, I mean, this record's amazing. This is kind of like, this record is like every record from the Locust. This is what all their stuff sounds like. If you like this record, you're probably going to like everything from, Plague Soundscapes through like Safety Second, Body Last, and everything they've done. It's just, I think they ended up signing to Epitaph for a while. But look, I'm going to stop talking because I've been going on way too long about this record that came out a million years ago. So like always, thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discuss the Locust 1998 self-titled release. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, please don't forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. I'm going to go. Have a good night.